Okay, hi everyone. Welcome again, and this is for installment 9, 56 to 62, I think. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Rick. I'm glad you're back again.
Thank you.
Would you like to kick off, say anything? I think you know everyone.
Hi, Jacques. Hi, Kevin. Hi, Lorraine. Hi, Jude. Hi, John.
Hi,
Hi.
John, you've disappeared again.
I'm right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where's your video?
Uh,
He was trying to do it, the Bay Bridge behind him.
I know.
I was going to tell him that is not what it looks like today. I'll guarantee you that. But it's nice to see it normal
it's
before.
I'm on my iPad that you may see me in and out because it's just the camera I try to adjust it. So according to the meteorologist here, the reason why it's orange, orangish is because it's blocking out the blue. The haze and the smoke is being blocked, is being reflected back into the atmosphere. And the other colors are being absorbed into the down to the earth. So, and the haze and smoke is it's stuck here. So,
Well, let's hope for some winds and rain and stuff like that.
We don't want wind. No wind.
Right. The moment.
Rain, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Who would like to talk about their experiences this past week with installment 9?
Well, I can start in saying that I always find every installment interesting, all the chapters interesting, and find in installment 8 as well as this installment, some of these, there's a lot of behind the scenes discussion here. You know, the chapter 56, what happens when you die? And just even learning that ego, like I've always thought, the point of consciousness that we're at stays with us, whether we're in body or whether we've left the body behind. But I thought we might be in a kind of suspension, waiting for our next move to either come back to correct and continue. But it tells us that the ego works from there and influences those who allow themselves to be influenced by it. And I guess that's all of us at some point. We have all come through the Course in Miracles that has created the awakening and the awareness to how much we were conditioned and how we were ego. You know, we lived in that ego. So it continues on, and then
just stick with that point for a second, Lorraine.
Okay.
It was interesting for me to see that. I kind of felt that because a lot of people think that when we die, everything is forgiven and, well, there's nothing to forgive, but everything goes back to zero. No, it carries on, and so what does it mean to you today, here, now, Lorraine, having read that? That's my question. I'm curious about that. How does it affect or change how you would live today?
Yeah, it changes how I think about it in that, I always would want to dismiss that there's evil forces, like actual entities that are there to destroy us in a way, the traditional way of evil is out there and against us in that it's its own entity. I always figured, we create evil. We're our own demons.
It's all
right?
us.
It's all us, right?
So how does it affect how you live now?
gosh, I've been paying, I've been paying more attention, I have to say this, to how I am perceived, or do I come across as being kind? Can I really love unconditionally? And so I'm paying attention to interaction. I was on the telephone and it was a telemarketer near dinner time. And my automatic reaction was being annoyed. And I said, no, I'm not going to support you. I did receive a brochure. I have, donated. And I kind of rudely hung up and I thought, whoa, Lorraine, that was not kind, so I became aware of that. And then I had within maybe a half an hour or an hour, it was after dinner, it was the Avon lady. She came to my door and she was telling me, I'm sorry I had to disturb you and come and deliver this, but we're going away tomorrow. And so I listened to her going away this trip, and I'm thinking, how did I influence her kindly, right? Was I kind? And I thought, well, yes, in that I was able to stay with her where she was that in her experience, because I think, well, gee, I'm not teaching about her truth of who she is in the moment. Like that went through my mind. But I thought, no, Lorraine, you were honoring, her story, and she was going away and you wished her well. And I was able to compare those two experiences. So I have started to be more aware of how I come across. How can I relate? Like, can I connect that to, though, how does that make me, knowing that egos can influence me, maybe, to how I react? It's a bigger awareness. Certainly I'm trying to be aware of how others perceive me and if I can be kind. And can I really love unconditionally? You're like, that's big. Oh yeah, that's easy. But it's not really like, and then I had to forgive myself and say, okay, that phone call is over. That was a lesson in how you were being unkind. And next time you can acknowledge, appreciate, and say, no, thank you, not today, right? Just two practical examples.
Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. I mean, and I will say that the way you listen to your neighbor is showing her the truth of who she is by simply receiving her and blessing her. And the important, I wonder if when you were rude, which is whatever, you were yourself in that moment to the person on the phone, whether you could be with yourself the same way. It's okay,
Mm-hmm. I had to feel the annoyance.
Yes, and
right.
Be there with yourself in the same gentle way. You got to be who you are, and it isn't always soft and sweet. That's not love necessarily. At least I don't think so. Rick, you talk to Lorraine, because it's not like that for me.
Well, Lorraine, we as humans, we really don't know what unconditional love is. We've never shown it, and we've never experienced it, or at least not often. We're very used to conditional love. I love you today, but I may change my mind tomorrow when you do something that makes me mad. That's what we're used to. So yeah, this is unconditional love all the time. No attachments, no judgments to whatever you do. I still love you even if you do something that's really unbelievable tomorrow. That's a tough one because we're not used to that.
No, but one of the chapters in one of the earlier installments was, are you prepared to love unconditionally? I think that was one of our questions to live by. I'd have to go back to find it, but because that has kind of stayed with me, can I? You're right, we put conditions. We have been trained and programmed, right, to love conditionally. And it still comes up, as Christina is trying to point out to me in some of the interactions that I have. And will I ever know what it's like to love unconditionally?
It comes up for everyone. You're not special, okay, Lorraine?
Yeah.
For everyone.
Shucks.
And the question is, can you love yourself in that moment? That's how I practice, being the presence of love for myself, even when I'm being shitty,
Oh, thanks. Yes, exactly.
That's the thing,
It's
not
very,
judging myself, recognizing it's
yeah,
happening,
yes,
and being present as neutrally as I can be with that,
yeah. So what it boils down to is, can I love myself unconditionally first,
Yes.
regardless of what it looks like? Thank you, Christine.
I think so. That's how I do it. Anyway, somebody else talk.
Yeah, this is John. This is John.
Yeah, John.
Hi, John.
Hi. Given the fact that I haven't really talked much here, because I'm out on my walking trip, as I was listening to the lectures, especially lesson or chapter 56, I believe, on soul. I've been listening to audio versions of the book Destiny of Souls and Journey of Souls by Dr. Michael Newman, in which he used hypnosis to regress patients and trying to get at their past lives. And what Jesus was talking about, I just found so right on as far as the soul. And also, I wanted to mention that I'm the big thing I'm taking out of these chapters. One is from the start. You're asked to bless everyone that you meet, and I find that. So I've been trying to do that as I pass by them on the street, is to bless them. And also, a friend of mine, he recently got a dog, and what he's learning from the dog is to be in the moment, and that's what I'm trying to do also.
Right.
So I'm getting a lot of different things from these chapters, and I'm really excited about the next each installment. So
That's great. That's so true about the moment. We can't love in the future or love in the past. We can love right now, here,
yes.
with all of us right here. Rick, go ahead.
Well, yesterday, I'm a teacher, so yesterday I had an encounter with a parent who was very difficult, and her behavior was just over the top, ugly, and it made me feel bad. But I remembered, oh yeah, well, guess what? I've been ugly and mean and nasty to people so many times in my almost 60 years. So there it is. I'm seeing it. So I just said, you know what? It must be really hard to be her in her situation. It must be so hard. So today she calls me, and she never calls me. And she was so sweet on the phone. And so I was like, oh yeah, this is so nice. There is sweetness in there. There is love in there. And I'm sure people who dealt with me thought, no way, that guy, he has no sweetness in him. But I did. I just needed somebody to help me to cultivate it, which is what we're doing. That's what this whole project is about, is the cultivation of that sweet spot, that sweetness that's inside everybody, even the most horrendously bitter people that are so hard to deal with. There's sweetness in them too. And so she showed me her sweetness today. She was so sweet. And I've never seen it. And I've had her daughters in my class now for 2 years. So that's the whole thing, is when they show that side that's not so sweet. Remember when you had that side, A, and B, just trust there is sweetness in there somewhere. Maybe you don't see it, but it's in there somewhere.
I love that. I love that. And you're sort of demonstrating, Rick, that it's all me. Your sweetness, listening and being there compassionately, silently, taking it on, just shows her, But she went off and discovered that for herself and came back to talk to you. Yeah, that's amazing. Wow. That's very cool.
Also, I want to just add that during these, when I listen to the audios of the chapters, by the way, I really like your voice, Christina. the audio very.
Mhm.
I really enjoy your voice. I feel like Jesus is talking to me personally. He's actually talking into my ear, and so I've really I've been, and this is the most personal of the three books. The first one for me was esoteric and very circular, Course in Miracles, very expansive, hard to understand, but I mean, I did the lessons. The Course of Love is more is more into me, and the third one, the Journey into the Unknown, is more personal for me, and I feel that it's Jesus got a message for me directly, and so that's why I'm really fascinated by it.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jack, can you unmute yourself, Jack? Jack? Jack, can you hear me?
No, here. Hey.
Unmute yourself.
No. Is there a way to?
I clicked on the ask to unmute. Yeah.
Okay.
There he goes.
I figured it out.
There you go. Jack, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Now we couldn't hear you.
Now we can hear you.
I was just saying that when we become aware that we're not exactly up to par, that we're not perfectly loving, the important thing for me is smile and just be aware, not judgmental, not to judge myself for having been less than loving or partially loving. Just be aware. And to me, that's correcting itself automatically. I don't have to do anything more than just be aware and not judge myself.
Yeah, I love that, because that's exactly what I think it's chapter 58 then says, that learning to refrain from judgment is learning to tame the ego. That one single thing, you know, which is easy to say and very hard to do for ourselves, on ourselves, even when we learn to do it for other people.
And to me, the trick is smile. When I smile, I know I'm not judging.
If it's a genuine smile, you can have a
Yes.
smile. I think Journey has talked about that, to feel the energy.
Smiling at myself.
Yeah, yeah.
Within.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it certainly says in chapter 58 that knowing and accepting replace judgment, and judgment is not of love. So, Jacques, to smile and not judge is, as Christina said, is beautiful, right on. But then also to take it a step further for me, and loving can I accept, like, yeah, in that moment, I guess then I have to be accepting of myself, just as it unfolded or whatever happened. If I'm not judging it, not smiling, then I am loving myself unconditionally.
That's it.
Yeah. It was interesting to me that chapter 58 actually talks about trusting how you feel when you're interacting with someone, and don't go by the cues of the body and face in front of you, but how you feel. And that's a very, very deeply meaningful, energetic thing that you can pick up, because sometimes you can be hearing words, but the body, my stomach is going, you know, all twisty inside, and I know something's not quite right, you know. So that feeling is important. Rick, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that, I know liars because I was a liar. I was such a liar. I lived a double life. So that's something that I know. So, I pick up on that, but I'm always reminded of myself and all the people that I hurt when I did that. And it's just like looking in the mirror. So I can't really judge it because I've already been there, done that, I did it big time. And so, it takes one to know one, so to speak. And, at our ages, we've probably all done everything that you can do. So that's why we don't judge it anymore, because we've let it go in ourselves. It was just, we didn't know the truth about ourselves. And we really, as ugly as it was, that we did the best that we could at the time. We were confused and lost. And so is everybody else today. They're confused and lost. They're in the place we were in. So I can never say anything about it. The president, allegedly he tells a lot of things that are not true, but I know it because I did the same thing on a smaller scale, but that doesn't make it any better. So sometimes, things just kind of remind you of where you've been in your journey. So and then you smile, like Jacques says, and you say, hey, I'm not there anymore. So I don't need to carry it with me anymore. It's over with and done with.
I love that it not judging undoes the ego. Ego is judgment then. It's a key thing. Eh?
Yeah. So, Rick, I would like to hear from you on what was coming up for me as you were talking. I totally agree with everything you said. So let's say somebody's not telling the truth and you're with them and you're, doing the inner smile and knowing, and I've been there before, so I can totally be with it without any difficulty. My wondering is always about, since I'm still here in the world, what might be mine to do or say. Let's assume that it would come from compassion and empathy and love. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So I lived a double life, and I was married to a woman, and I had a son who was 14, and I was living a double life because I was living the gay lifestyle, and so I hurt them so much, and so during that time when I was doing this, I received a lot of bitter judgment when it all came out. But when it was still hidden, it was those little things that make you, not want to kill yourself. Those little smiles, little gestures, just a little look, something that just said, hey, you're okay. Tomorrow's going to be better, and this is all going to get better. Any kind of a helpful thing, a smile, pat on the shoulder, just anything that would validate what is inside you, really, the soul, that true self, the elevated self of form, the Holy Spirit. I mean, that's what I'd lost touch with. So any reminder that that's really what I wasn't all of these lies that I was telling everybody, then, that was helpful to me for somebody that was trapped. And it is a trap. When you start lying, you can't stop because you have to cover your tracks. Right. And you have to remember, who did you tell that story to? And you have to remember the stories, right? And so it's going to come on all unraveling because there's no way you're going to remember all this.
Yeah, I love that. The little gestures and you that's my experience too. My heart always knows at that moment, once I'm in that compassionate place, you know, I quit judging, or I notice that I'm judging, and I stopped and breathed into that place of wholehearted being present with the person, you know, as it is. Yeah, it does arise. And the person feels it even if I'm not saying or doing anything. But yeah.
But
Thank
you know, Christina, if you ever had the chance to give the message of, you know, I know, I feel like, you know, you're in pain right now, but you're worth something anyway. Any little smile you could give to a person like that really could help them, especially if they're contemplating self-harm.
Yeah.
Anything,
Yep.
anything at all. Yeah.
Absolutely. Lovely. Thank you.
Doesn't I one of, I don't know if it's the 9th installment or the 8th, where it says just the soul connects with another soul, and we don't even have to say anything. We just have to be there. I just have that just came to mind that I did, you know, see that.
Yeah.
We've read it very lately.
And if something arises, you'll know, because your heart knows if you're prompted to do or say something. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Judy, you've been very quiet today.
Yeah.
Would you like to say anything?
It's very moody outside and very moody in here. It feels like it's a continual dusk. It is lighter now than it has been all day, but it's not light at all. And so I am a bit, a little bit, but I do want to tell you what happened. So I was sitting here thinking, you know, this apartment's kind of dark anyhow because it's on the ground. I was thinking, gee, you know, it'd be nice if I could just light a fire. And then I thought how ridiculous that sounded, to light a fire when this doom and gloom is caused by fires. And what's really fun is I don't have a fireplace. But, you know, you can get the fireplace things on your TV, and my TV's in kind of a bay window where it could be a fireplace. But then I remembered that, you know, on YouTube, I watch these and listen to these lovely videos that have beautiful scenery and lovely meditative music. So I put that on, and that's been helpful, very helpful. I have the music turned off now, but that really does kind of put me into a really nice space. No, I guess what I'll bring up this, I got a string of emails, and it's all this about upcoming election and everything. And it started, my sister sent something, and then I asked a question about kind of like, honestly, what is the answer? You know, what is the problem? What's the answer? And I got a very good response back from my brother, one of my brother-in-laws, and I got your typical thing from my cousin's husband, not my cousin, my niece's husband. And it was the typical paragraph after paragraph about socialism, bad, Trump, all this stuff, you know, is good and all this stuff. And I just, you know, I go, okay. And I responded with, you know, basically meditation, things like that. And of course he comes back and says, well, you know, sitting in a circle and doing kumbaya is not going to solve anything. I wrote back, I said, you don't even know who I am. I don't sit in a circle and do that. What, you know, and I was so, it really got to me that, you know, he's putting words in my mouth, and so that was that. So he got a rise out of me. And then I've gotten, another woman responded, and she said, oh, I was going to say the same thing. And then someone else responded and said, oh, I was thinking of the same thing. And today, one more person, I haven't been responding to those people. I'm not going to go there anymore. But another one said, oh yeah, and I was going to say the same thing. And I go, you know, these people are really, what is that called? They're just following the same rhetoric over and over and over. Brainwashed is the word I'm looking for. And so when that occurred to me, I just deleted the last couple of emails. I was thinking, I don't think anybody asked me a question, but their whole arguments are so really not worthy of going there. And I think by not responding is a better response. I might look back and see if they asked a real question, because if they did ask a question, I'd be glad to answer whichever I would. But it was an attack, as I perceived it. It was attack on righteousness, on goodness, on prayer, on seeing it in a light of allness, oneness. I mentioned something about, they're saying about America, the greatest country. I said, America is no longer the greatest country, and you don't even have to worry about China, because if no one substantiates it, what good is it? I said, the world is too small for a greatest country. We need to have a greatest world. So anyhow, so that's where I kind of left it. And then when the other ones came in, I just went, I'm not going to respond, because they think I'm cuckoo, that I'm going from feelings and I don't know what I'm talking about. And I went, good. Absolutely good. But you know, I didn't respond right away, because listening to guidance and getting the responses to come through me rather than my own thing. So I waited a day and a half, and then another one came in this morning. But when I first got it, I was irritated. I will confess, but I got off of it and I went, I'm not going to deal with that right now. It needs to percolate. I need guidance on this, what to do. And so then I saw that and I went, just delete them. I had that too with Facebook. I couldn't stand Facebook after a while for the same thing. And so I got off Facebook. And one morning I woke up and said, just get off Facebook. And I went, yeah, how easy is that? And so I miss my friends. I miss some of my friends, but my sisters know to send me their grandkids' photos and things like that. But it was just so easy. And it was also very easy not to respond. And there's no response to that, you know, not really. Oh, she's an angel again. Lorraine, you look so great when you have that perfectly.
Oh, I'm just thinking how easily it is for us to allow ourselves to be invalidated. You know, the phone call and these responses you're getting. You know, if we look back at Christ and how nothing could invalidate him, no matter what situation, no matter what response. And we just slipped into it so easily, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'm thinking the very last line of the very last chapter, 62, is we don't want others to reject the truth because they think we are crazy. They think we are insane. I rewrote it. I paraphrased the last, but so that it made me think of that. It's
Yeah, you talk about invalidating. We allow that so easily. It's because I invalidate myself. If I really, truly loved myself, what anyone says I would allow, you know, it to pass through and, you know, and have that compassion Rick was talking about, that I've been there saying those kinds of awful things to other people, you know. So, Judy, I'm going to have to ask you this question. In everything you said, with all these people over several days, were you able to get to the points at any time with any of them to bless them also?
Oh, at the end of the, I didn't say bless you.
That oh, no, not necessarily out loud. It's inside.
The whole thing.
All the time. Yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. See, that's everything. I grew up
with these people. I grew up in Wisconsin, so I know that mentality.
It's everything.
I understand where they're coming from and all of that.
Yeah. But that's everything. That's wonderful.
Question. My brother-in-law answered it, and I was kind of happy with that, but then it didn't end there.
Yeah.
It just is, no, definitely. And you know, the other thing is I sent out, there was a little, I'm going to find it here in my photos very fast. I want to get it right. Oh, come on, see y'all, come on. Gosh. Of course, when I'm going for it, but it was the one about truth. I don't want all of them. How do I get out of here? All right. Anyway, it wasn't that far away. about people not being able to handle the truth.
Mm.
And I don't know why it's not here. Anyway, I can't believe I would have deleted it unless I brought it up from somewhere else. But it's just about, and what we were just talking about, how people are afraid of the truth. They don't want to be confronted with the fact that love is real. They want to keep up the drama or something. They definitely have a very hard time coming from the heart. They're more into their brain. And I know a lot of them are definitely into their finances, and they are not looking beyond their finances and money and that kind of a monetary thing at all. They feel that's their security. And so I don't blame them for that. We've all felt that at one time or another until we, like he says, we've all have enough that we don't need to worry about that, whether you got millions or just enough, enough. And so, yeah, so I mean, I understand all that stuff. It's just, I was dealing with
feeling what you're feeling, that's really important. Allowing yourself to feel your own responses within, how you feel as those things are happening, and be with yourself, because that's the gift to me in anything like that, which, trust me, I also have with people. Mm-hmm. It's what's going on inside of me when they're saying whatever they're saying. That's what I take away from it, to go sit with and cradle and allow to come up fully, so that I'm no longer afraid of it. Whatever it is, it's dissipated.
Something?
Jack, yeah.
I used to be upset at least 12 times a day. More than 12 a day. And I haven't been upset in the last, say how many months. Because now I understand that everything that comes my way is what I need, is what I have to appreciate. I have to be thankful for everything that comes my way. And it does still come my way, even if I normally wouldn't like it. But now I receive it as an extra gift to make me do the next step, the next space. And I haven't been upset for a long, long time. And I can't figure out how I'm going to be upset. Things come my way, and it belongs to me now to welcome it, accept it, or pass on. But nothing bad ever comes my way anymore.
It's all a gift.
Yes.
It's all a gift. And you realize, having said that, you issued a challenge to me. Just watch out. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, kind of.
Kind of. The other thing about responding to the first emails was, I asked, how would you want me to respond to these people? It's like, well, can I maybe put a little crack in their egg? I don't want to tell them I didn't tell them what to do or anything else, but just put a little crack in their thinking so the light can get in, that one song. And so I felt I did that enough. And that's the other reason why I didn't think I had to respond to the other emails. Mm-hmm. So that's showing up as, okay, what do you want me to voice then, if this came to me this way? I sure didn't go asking for it, that's for sure.
No, but it comes up in chapter 60, where Jesus, who is dictating or giving you this journey, Rick, and the ascended masters, I understand too, is saying that we need to be connected to them in every moment, in everything we do. Right. Stay connected to them. So I guess, that's another thing I'm trying to do, Christine, is really try to be aware and conscious. I think I was going to say at the beginning of not just the ego, but this veil of help behind us. We've been the stars of our show. We'll eventually go behind the curtain, and we have all this support. Right? So to be aware that I'm not acting alone. And I guess it's like A Course in Miracles, the first impulse is a reaction. It's the ego first responds, and we need to pause and then be in touch. And that pause, well, I'm just connecting that pause is really the holy instant, or being in the minute, being in the present moment, getting out, backing up, taking that step away from that initial, that's what we default to, right? So, and I guess what Journey is calling us to do, and even A Course of Love, okay, now, when you have these reactions, when we get annoyed, and they come up, you have to be with it. You have to be with it. You have to figure it out, because it's about yourself, nothing else. And
Jacques, take that breath and feel it.
Yeah.
Because as Jacques saying, that's the gift. It's not about the other person. In fact, whenever I find myself using language like they and them, that also has become a little signal to me that I'm othering, I'm just focusing out there and avoiding what's inside of me, I mean, of course, we're all unique expressions of love. So there are human beings walking around, but,
I like Jock's challenge, the gift to, everything's gift.
The gift, exactly.
And let's accept it.
Yeah.
Kevin's got his hand up.
Yeah, just as you were speaking, Lorraine, there's something that was, thanks for bringing these chapters up, because sometimes I forget, and they're very rich. But what was made me laugh, there was quite a few things. One of the things was about, I forget which chapter it was, about being the star in someone else's story. And that really, really, brought up a lot of things, really, I really laughed at that.
Yeah.
That's what everybody's talking about today, is all of us collectively have moved from fear to love, and now we get to meet our former selves all over the place. And like Kevin says, we get to be in their shows as the special guest star. So it's interesting, how the whole thing works. So
I love that. That we get to meet our former selves. What a great way to think about it. I love that. Yeah. Do we get to meet our future selves as well, or do we only get to meet former selves?
We become them.
Oh no, but I want to meet them as well. Have them in my life. Yeah. I guess they're all behind the scenes, so they're there anyway. Same thing behind.
No, you're sitting right in front of me, all of you.
Yeah, really.
Well,
We're becoming.
It's like Elvis. Elvis sang about this years ago. I mean, he sang in that song. I think there's I forget the song. The world is a stage, and each one of us must play his part. That whole song.
Yeah,
and Shakespeare too has said that.
Yeah.
Players,
Although it's very interesting, I really like the bit in this installment. I think it's in this installment. I get a little confused sometimes. Where, I think it talks about you can't say that someone is behaving in a particular way because that's just the role they were assigned.
Oh yes, that's in here.
It says you could say that God assigned them the role of being a son or a daughter, when they enter the world. But after that, it's the ego and soul duking it out, as to the choice. And that's what the Course in Miracles gave me initially years ago, which was, I don't care what it's called, don't care what anybody says or does, everyone, and I particularly, have a choice in every moment. Am I choosing for love, or am I choosing for fear? And calling for love in my behavior. So that is the journey, isn't it, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. There's something interesting that came up for me. I don't know what it was, but this week, about, which I didn't see before, about roles, the roles that we all play, mum, dad and stuff, and actually realizing maybe it was the way that I read this thing, I don't know, but that if you know that to go deeper with to someone else, that we need to go deeper than these roles, right? That connection. So that was interesting for me.
Speaking of roles, one of the websites that I read from, they were also channeling Jeshua, and they're talking about Donald Trump is playing his role, and it is true, he's the chosen one for that role, which would almost be, you know, for that role. And it was kind of tongue-in-cheek saying he was the chosen one, but for that role. And so he's doing actually a great service by stirring things up so people can see them. There's those of us that of course are aware that this is what we're to look at and to heal, forgive, whatever. But anyhow, when I read that, and at the end it said, and yes, he is the chosen one, but for that part. I just thought that was pretty, again, tongue in cheek, but still, we're all playing our parts beautifully.
He shows us our ugliness, our greediness. He shows us our desire to have power and control. He shows us a lot of ugly things, but we need to look at these things because we created them. So, I mean, if you're able to and look at him as a mirror, then that can be a good thing for a person.
Not just a mirror, but as well, a mirror, but also as another person just playing their part perfectly, as you know, as he's to play his part. And
not think about him at
everything
all.
A mirror? Is everything necessarily a mirror?
I don't know.
Well, maybe that's a more positive way to look at it. Instead of seeing him as an other or as an enemy or somebody to fight against. You know, instead, if you see those qualities that he's showing or lack of qualities, if you see those in yourself, then again, there's that connection that you're not going to be pushing him away. You bring him in and you love him. That's what people are not doing today. They're pushing, finger pointing, blaming. They're not loving. They're saying, you know, if you do this, you're out. But actually, Lorraine brought this up a few weeks ago, you know, the police officer with George Floyd, we need to bring him in and love him because he's part of us. So this is a totally different way, because the way of the world is go away. I hate you. We don't want anything to do with you. This way is no, we love you. And it's unconditional love. I'm not going to judge you. Just like it didn't feel good to be judged myself. So it's just the opposite way of how people, their natural way of being, you know, is.
And that's the transformation.
Allow people to be who they are, just as I would wish to be allowed to be who I am in the moment. Knowing that the next moment is a new moment and a new choice.
Warts and all. Warts and all. We created everything here, so we have to own it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so that's why I appreciated Lorraine's comment a few weeks ago, and I remembered that because I don't hear that very much from anybody like on the news. It's all blame and shame. Blame and shame and push them away and lock them up. But it's not, there's no love there because people think that you can do things to be outside of love. And we know that that's not true.
And that's the transformation that we are all going through at this personal collective level. I mean, we are one and we're connected, but we're going through this transformation, and that's how we're going to create the new. You know, we are the anchors. We are the sort of first line. I think in the first installments, it said we are being called, and there will be other waves, but you're the first wave of, we weren't called warriors. What were we called? Saints at one point, it is in there, but we were called to be.
Trailblazers.
That's another word that just came up in this installment. Explore, like explorers, was it? Not explorers, pioneers. Pioneers. We are the first wave of pioneers in the transformation. And it has to happen within us. And we've talked a little bit today, and we're moving, into our truth where we can stay in there and be in there solidly, but moving from out of fear to love. Right? We're moving from fear to love, and it will reflect, it will be mirrored in the world. That it may take thousands of years. I think one of the things that I remember in this journey is the collective. We're called to be a collective of pioneers, that word collective. And Jesus, in A Course of Love, he talks about the collective consciousness was not ready for his message when he's talking about his crucifixion, right? Okay, so where do I want to go? So the collective, we are the collective. The new world is a collective, right? It's the oneness that we are, and we are the consciousness now trying to gather in more of the collective, right? More of the collective, so that we will all transform, and love will be the new world, is the new creation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't articulate
so I kind
things
of
well, but
may I just, what I'm hearing you say, Lorraine, which is wonderful. It's absolutely in my experience that this is no longer about each one of us doing our own inner work or our self-development, which is what A Course in Miracles and A Course of Love was about. This is about how we allow the invisible to become visible between and amongst us. And that's where the answers lie, together. And I've been having quite a few experiences of that, how in places where I'm working with people, each one over a period of days sometimes has a piece of the answer, and it just builds on itself in terms of how we listen to each other when we are truly not seeing an other. It's like one mind, one heart, and we each are accessing a piece of the answer. So when something happens that's uncomfortable, how we respond to it is part of whether we have access to that answer eventually for everyone. So that's kind of my way.
That's perfectly said. Thank you. I know why I'm with you, Christina, because of clarity. So thank you.
Well, can I give you an example of what happened when I was preparing this next installment? Actually, was it? No, it was the last installment. Yeah, it's chapter 53, where it talks about mature souls have the power to soften the ego's stance, harsh stances and opinions about virtually everything. And immature souls are virtually enslaved by the ego. The luckiest of them get let out of their cages once in a while to go for a walk. The soul is let out once in a while. And I think it says something like, if anything really of lasting value happens, you can guarantee the soul had something to do with that. But typically they're in their cage. And just, I want to remind, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, we talked about how I'd been uncomfortable with the words immature and mature, and then how I heard this thing that talked about, think of it as fruit, ripe and unripe. So you don't throw away an unripe green peach. You take care of it. You keep it a little warm. You put it in a bag. You watch it gently. You don't poke at it all the time. You just, let it be and give it a gentle touch every so often. And then it ripens all on itself just by you being unconditionally loving and caring. So on that basis, I want to say that, so when I was preparing this installment, the image that came to me when I read that sentence about it gets let out from its cage once in a while was the image of a tiger in a cage wanting to get out. And it was about love not always being soft and sweet, but compassion in action can be fiercely compassionate, almost ferociously compassionate in the action we take. Not in an angry way at all, but in a completely loving, forceful way. And I feel many of us are called to things like that. If it's coming from a place of complete calm and peace and blessing, it can be very forceful and ferocious. So then I went to look for a picture. I found the perfect picture of a tiger in a cage. And tigers are very meaningful to me because of being born in Malaysia, which is the Malaysian tiger is a branch of the Indian tiger, and being Indian in origin too. And my mother came to me as a tiger actually 3 days after she died. It was an amazing dream I had, which repeated itself, several times. But they say about Asian mamas being tiger mamas, that kind of thing.
Yeah, they do.
But anyway, and you know what? Then I second guessed myself and I said, well, it's a little harsh. This part is kind of difficult, being caged. And it does talk about softening the ego. So I put a flower instead. Okay, so that was me preparing for all of this. And then I was in a gathering of a dialogue, mostly Course of Love people, but just basic dialogue, being ourselves. We were practicing exploring the unknown. And it was quite a rough gathering because we were practicing being who we are in the moment, which isn't always sweetness and light. And afterwards, someone wrote and said they felt awful afterwards. It was like a disaster, blah, blah, but they realized that they need to sit with all of that and it really would be fine. And then somebody else in the group wrote back and said, I love you, blah, blah. And here's a story about tigers, that tigers apparently when they get together, they first growl and kind of, show their strength and bare their teeth and everything with each other. But then they bond. And when they bond, it's a very, very, very deep bond. Why? Because they've been who they are and they are now bonded. So it was like amazing to me reading these exchanges. And of course I wrote and shared my stuff about how that is exactly what we are trying to do. We are practicing, we are allowing ourselves to be who we are and allow our souls, our true selves out of the cage. And of course, we're going to be unfinished and prettied up. We're going to be a little ugly and rough around the edges when we start. And that's okay if we agree to be with each other that way. So that's an example of the pieces falling into place. And so I shared the picture because I felt, okay, the picture was for us in this dialogue group and not necessarily for the world yet. Anyway, that's my story. And an example for the collective landing. It's in the collective.
I want to say something to transformation before I leave. And that's from the way of mastery. And we have to remember that love is all there is. It's all there is. Which, I think the hardest thing to remember. It says love alone, love alone embraces all things, trusts all things, allows all things, and therefore transforms or transcends all things. And I really bring that to heart a lot because I know that's true. And I know that love is all there is and that it's big enough to embrace whatever insanity I think I see, whatever I think I create, whatever, but to go back into that. So anyhow, with love and embrace, I gotta go.
I just want to say that's lovely, and that's the hardest thing to do, to embrace anger, embrace, abrasive, whatever in ourselves and everyone around us, and we have to practice doing that.
It's true. Well, love you all. Gotta go.
Love you. Thank you, Judy.
Bye, Judy.
And,
yeah, I gotta go too. Thank you. Bye.
6 o'clock. Anybody?
Bye, Chris.
All right, we'll say goodbye.
God bless.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Bye, Jacques. Bye.